Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 61st lesson of A Course in Miracles, y'all. And I am just so happy. I'm so happy. The 61st lesson of A Course in Miracles states, I am the light of the world. I am the light of the world. And today, everyone, I am honored to welcome someone who has gone through challenges and is now lighting the world. Rebecca Arce had a near-death experience and now offers healing so powerful that her and her husband are known as the Muscle Whisperers. Rebecca, welcome to the sharing group. I hope I said your last name correctly.
Correct. Arce, huh?
I love it. I love it. We're so excited to have you here with us, you and your husband, JV. So, wherever you would like to start in talking about your spiritual experiences, you can just begin.
Perfect.
And we noticed most people would really enjoy like how we individually started and then how we came together.
But just a little background of ourselves. I, since a child, did have the spiritual gift, but as a child and not knowing about the unknown, it would be very scary as a child. It was never a good experience. It was very few good experiences with, like, say, if my great grandmother would come and visit me, then I wouldn't be so scared. But other than that, not knowing who these spirits were, coming to me, asking for help, and I didn't know that. It's pretty much like the movie of The Sixth Sense, the little boy, where it would scare him at first. And it wasn't until he was able to get empowered by another ghost to tell him, well, why don't you just try talking and see what they need? So I didn't have that movie growing up. So it was something I had to figure out on my own about how to create healthy boundaries, how to, not make it so scary for myself. And in the process of trying to figure that out is when my near-death experience occurred at 19. And it wasn't until then, when I went through that experience, where I came back, and I did not want to come back. There was no need. It was so much better, on the beyond. There's no pain. It's just light. Like you said, we are the light. And that's what we go back into, the light. And I just didn't want to return from that light. It's the most beautiful, soothing light that you could ever be within. And so you just don't want to get back. But I came back for a reason. And then that's when, after that, it was figuring out self-care, first of all, figuring out how to function again, how to regain empowerment of my own body again, and going through that holistic care. So from 19 to 25, it was a lot of doctor visits, a lot of illness, a lot of medication that eventually I turned very allergic to, and it wasn't helping me anymore. Then at 25 is when my journey with holistic care started, and I was eventually slowly improving. By the age 30, I was really well. And that's where I first experienced my purpose in the holistic care, learning to heal, learning how to read my body and understand why I was feeling pain, or what was the reason for I couldn't function. And during that journey, my holistic doctors, I would see several. I was seeing a massage therapist, acupuncturist, chiropractic, holistic care doctors, several of them. And they were all trying to get me back to my original state. And in that process, it was very fascinating, because as they were healing, working with me, I could feel everything. I could feel the energy going through my body. I could, they would tap and I would be like, oh, I felt this. And so the doctors were like, you could do this too. And I was like, what do you mean I could do this too? They're like, you have the gift. You feel everything. And I don't think you realize that. And I was like, what do you mean I feel everything? And so they taught me how to really feel my energy feels. They taught me about my chakras. And so that's where I became even more curious. Like, wait, it's not just medicine and going to the doctor. They're like, no, there's more beyond that when it comes to healing. So because of them and my journey in healing is when I became interested in the healing arts. And that's where I started massage therapy course. And in that course, there was a lot of holistic, so a lot about meditation, yoga, tai chi, qigong, reiki, the chakras, aromatherapy, acupressure. So I was really exposed to a lot of different techniques, craniosacral. My husband has certification in
And other
access
things.
bars. Yeah, access bars. So it's just learning all these different techniques and modalities that all lead to the same purpose, which is healing. And going through that is where I started learning about my touch, with among other colleagues, I would start working on them and they would be like, wow, your hands they feel so good. Like they're like, feels like you have hot stones. And I never caught on to the way my hands would feel on people. It never dawned on me that I was doing more than that. It wasn't until my teacher approached me, and because we would partner up with colleagues, with students, and then there's that one day that there was an odd number where one of them would miss. So the teacher had to step in. So it wasn't until I worked with her where she was like, you have the gift.
Wow.
And I was like, and I said, I'm like, yes, I could feel certain things. And sometimes I'm not sure what I'm feeling. And she said, just trust it. And shortly after that, a student showed up late. And it was a young male. And he came in very like a little out of sorts. And, I said, just take your time, calm down. I know you're late, but it's okay. And as he laid on the table and I started working on him, I was like, are you nauseous? And he's like looking at me like, wait, what? I said, are you nauseous and do you have a headache? He goes, yes. How do you know? I'm like, because I feel nauseous and I have a headache too. And so it was through her training where I became very attuned that not only with my hands I offer healing, but I feel everything. So as I'm working with clients, I literally can feel everything. But then there's another journey of learning how to create a healthy boundary where I'm not taking on
Absolutely.
what they have.
And that's something we're still learning ourselves. No one's a master of one and done. Like quickly, my backstory was my early recollection of spirituality or energy work was seeing my mom hunched over and I just see this color, like almost like some people will say seeing color energy. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't see it was doing my mom good. So I just placed my hands on her and see how my hands were almost absorbing it, pulling it off her. And then she was able to sit up and we were able to semi enjoy that moment, but not as harsh as she was dealing with at that time. I was only 2 years old.
Wow.
And right now, just talking to you, kind of referring or referencing back, looking back at my life, I was always empathic because for whatever reason, hanging out with a good chunk of my family, being raised in a Hispanic culture where it's very Catholicism and then Christianity, some of my family kept on jumping around different religions because they weren't happy or something like that. I was picking up all their shame and guilt. And it wasn't until I turned like 15 or 16 where I found a job, and it was the weekend, being a minor, when I was stepping away from that group and I wasn't feeling as shame or guilt or whatever emotions that those outings and, really kind of I was picking up. And of course, shortly after that, joined the military. And of course, as you lock down your emotions and not really, tapping into intuition and gifts. But I kept on since I was 2 years old, putting my hands, whether it's family or friends, and doing what later I learned was massage or energy work. Getting out of the military by 2010, straight to massage school. Once I was finishing with massage school, I went to join, try to build up my business by myself, but it wasn't really taking off. Not knowing I had some emotional and mental stuff I had to kind of address.
Yes.
So, and again, being empathic, not knowing whoever I was hanging out with at that time, I was fitting into their desires. So they want to be a comedian, an actor, book writer, hypnotherapist, public speaker, computer whiz, like depending on the group I was not realizing until recently, having a reading from a different healer, that I am, I guess the day I was born and the energy I carry as my soul in this lifetime, I am just raw energy. And that I carry the dragon energy both in my masculine and feminine. And I was, okay, so that's where I was drawn to dragons, because I have that dragon energy, and it's just raw, no focus, no kind of structure, until I met Rebecca, my soulmate. And I could say the last 4 years of having her in my life, even though first was having her as a landlord to a friend and colleague, because she went to the same training and the advanced program of neuromuscular therapy, to eventually everyone that we went to training for, hey, you guys, how long you guys been married? How long? It's like, no, we just worked together. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And after a while, I was like, okay, I got the message, and I got the message because I was about to move out. I was just here to focus on the advanced program, which was about 6 months, and to move on with my life. And I heard the whisper, I guess, from my higher self saying, this is where you're meant to be. So anytime, for those, listening, yeah, the message you mentioned is the light, but I still struggle with the darkness. But then I have this one anchor of this message. This is where you're meant to be. And then I now reflect, now it's almost 4 years since 2018, that what I've grown more in these 4 years than my first 31 years of my life, being an empath and not knowing and finding mentors, even though I did Reiki, even though I went to Access Consciousness and like all these different healing modalities. Okay, I didn't know that I was just absorbing and falling into their structure, wherever that desires were. But now that has someone with the best intention, she doesn't really try to control me, but she really challenges me in a growing, healthy relationship that I never had before.
It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. There is so much I want to add from that. First of all, Rebecca, you've always had the gift, right? But there was a time when you actually did transition to the other side. You were speaking of an illness. Did you ever identify what that was? And just tell us a little bit about when you encountered Jesus on the other side. And then I want to ask you, JB, I definitely want to go back to that dragon energy that you talked about.
Definitely. So when I turned 19, just to reference a little bit before 19, I was a child, very healthy child, but I did have a lot of issues, stomach issues. So I was constantly constipated, constantly not being able to digest food properly. My parents didn't know, I didn't know. And like he said, we grew up in a very Hispanic home where it's like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The food just seems to never end. And it was always a struggle for me to eat. And so now fast forward to 19, after several stomach infections, after several gastritis infections,
stomach pumpings from
stomach, 3 visits to the hospital to get my stomach cleaned out. By 19, my body was just like, that's it. We can't do this anymore. Like, it's too much work on the whole system. And so I ended up getting a very severe infection. But for doctors at that time, it was impossible to figure out what was happening. They didn't know how to deal with what infection I had. And so in that week of severe fevers and, convulsions, seizures, you name it, I don't remember any of it. I just remember like snippets of waking up and then going back down. But my mom says that during that time, I would fight them a lot. I would be like, get off me, and screaming. I don't remember any of this. And so all I know is that somehow I ended up back home. And later on, I found out it's because the doctor said, we don't know what else to do. What is your decision? So they decided to take me back home, pretty much to like say my goodbyes, make peace. And so then that's when I came home is when I traveled. And so for me, at first, it felt like a dream.
Mhm.
But then there's that moment where there's moments in your dreams where you're just like, this feels way too real.
Mhm.
And that was one of those moments where like, this feels way too real. I'm like, first of all, I'm in a place where I've never seen before. So that was the number one clue there, where I was just kind of like, where am I?
Mhm.
This is not a place I'm familiar with.
Mhm.
And then just seeing the hillside and, just different people and, just walking up this path. It wasn't like a path of light. First, it was like a path, like a trail, like if I was going on a hike.
Mhm.
And you're seeing people and and I'm walking towards this little cabin in the distance. And I just remember all of a sudden having this weird feeling of, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know these people. I'm a little scared now because now I'm starting to feel like I'm somewhere else and I have no idea where I'm at.
Right.
So that little scare, I remember as I was walking towards this cabin, then eventually that huge Native American just came out. And when he stepped out, I kind of stopped, hesitated a minute, and then I kept walking towards him and I would ask him like, who are you? I know you. I just remember thinking like, I know this person, but I can't put my finger on it. And so to the point where I was like literally standing right in front of him and I'm looking at him and I'm asking him questions and he's just like looking at me. But like I said in the previous interview, it's those eyes,
Yeah.
his eyes that were so intense and he's looking at me. And I remember there was a moment where I was like, okay, this is a little intense. Like, who are you? And he still wouldn't respond. And then finally, I remember just thinking, like, I guess I need to trust you.
Mm.
And the minute I said that, he just opened his hands. And then I remember seeing like the little hole. And even at that moment, I was like, why does that look familiar? Where have I seen that? But at that moment, I was just thinking, like, he's gonna take me home or somewhere. I don't know. And I just remember holding on to him, and I just remember feeling his embrace. His embrace was another thing that was just like, it almost felt like that perfect warm blanket just surrounding you. And it was just like, I just remember the minute he touched me, I just remember feeling, letting this sigh go, like, oh, and just letting go. And
Yeah.
then that's when we traveled through a light.
Mm.
And in that light, it's like where I just was like, oh, this is great. Like, oh, I could just stay here forever. And I was like in that light for a second, and then all of a sudden I woke up and I'm just like, are you kidding me? No, I did not. This is not where I want to be. But in the process of waking up, that's when I got even more scared because I could not move my body.
Wow.
I was just laying in my bed, like almost like frozen, very stiff. And I was like, okay, now I'm in trouble. And now I need to figure out how to get out of bed because I can't move my legs, I can't move my arms. Well, I remember I could move my eyes. So I'm like looking, my eyeballs are probably going like 100 miles per hour. Like, what am I supposed to do? And so eventually I started getting a very little feeling. So then I was like able to wiggle my way to the edge of the bed, make myself be able to fall off the bed. Thank God I was not in a bunk bed. And so eventually falling on the floor, eventually worming, making my way towards my parents' room. And then finally, when I was able to get there, just using my head to hit the door to let them know I was there.
Wow.
And then just them, like, I just remember my mom opening the door and just screaming my dad's name. And they picked me up. And I just remember, just them screaming, like, my mom was screaming at my dad, like, just rub her, And I didn't know until afterwards, my mom said that I was really cold. My body was cold. And so they were rubbing and rubbing. And I just remember turning to her and saying, Mom, I saw Jesus. Because until then it clicked. Until I came back, it clicked of who I saw, who I embraced. And like I said in the interview, it was his outfit was nothing like we've seen, what they represent on the TV or in a movie of Native Americans. It was nothing like that. I remember looking at his outfit and wondering, like, wow, that's a really unique outfit. Like, I have never seen that before. His feathers, the headband he had on, it was just like these beautiful feathers that would just fall back, almost like a bird's, just like a bird. When you see a bird and they have all their feathers that
Yeah.
go back, and especially if they have the nice shiny feathers, and that their heads just look so beautiful. That's what he looked like. It was a head with all these feathers, but very bird-like, almost like he could form into a bird at that moment. And then like I said, his outfit, it was just beautiful. Till this day, I could never, like, I'm not artistic enough to draw it, but I wish there was a way I could draw it to explain the detail of his outfit. Yeah, but more than anything, his embrace. His embrace is what I remember the most. His eyes, his intense eyes. He didn't say much, but I felt everything with him. It was just a feeling more than anything.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. It's so funny. Every in the ear who has experienced Jesus talks about the eyes. And that's interesting that they just talk about how intense his eyes are. That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. And eventually you said you woke up. I think you negotiated with source, with God, and said, look, if I'm gonna be here, then I need to.
That was the next day, because when I woke up that day, I did not feel well. Like, I was functioning, but I was functioning in a lot of pain. And I remember that whole day, I just kept thinking, like, I just want to go back to wherever that place was. I do not want to live like this. It was a pain. It felt like I had been beaten up,
Wow.
Especially in around the stomach area. It just felt like someone just like grabbed my insides and pulled them out. And I just could not hold my body up because it was so painful in my abdominal region. And I just remember that whole day just thinking, like, I just want to go back. I just want to go back. So that night, I looked forward to when nighttime came, because I don't know, for some reason in my mind at that time, I thought, nighttime, time to go.
I'm gonna go back to sleep and see it.
Time to go to sleep and go back wherever that was. And I remember when I sat down to go to bed, I was thinking, like, okay, I'm ready. And I remember talking to God and just saying, okay, guys, I'm ready to go. This is, and at that moment, then all of a sudden that little fears came in, like, oh, wait, but what if I don't go back? And I'm like, okay, maybe I have to do a second request. And I just remember it, thinking back in my 19-year-old mind, like, I don't even know where that thought process came up. But I remember sitting there and thinking, like, okay, well, just in case if I don't go back, can you please, please, please take the pain away? That's all I need right now, because the pain was unbearable. Went to sleep, and this time there was no dream, nothing. It was just this very deep sleep where it's just lights out. And I remember morning came, and when I woke up, I remember that was the first thing I thought, like, oh, I didn't go back. And then I was like dreading getting up. I was really dreading getting up. And when I finally kind of just stood up, sat up and just kind of sat there for a moment. And I was like, wait, I feel different. There's not a lot of pain. Maybe it's because I haven't moved yet. So I remember just then getting up. And so I got up and I was able to stand up. I wasn't hunched over. So I'm like, okay, this is strange. I'm not in pain. And I still couldn't believe it. So then I started hopping on one leg. I'm like, maybe it's because I haven't moved a lot. And so I start hopping on one leg, no pain. And I'm like, okay, this can't be real. like, because I was in severe pain the day before.
Wow.
I wasn't well, but I wasn't in pain. And that part I could not believe, because there was just no way from one day to the next for that pain to just leave like that. So then that's when I learned about, my first miracle. That was my first miracle, because it was like, there's no way to explain how that pain went away. But I just kind of kept it to myself, and I was like, okay, just thinking like, okay, I'm here for a reason. I need to figure it out. But again, it was still a very long journey of recovery, because my immune system did get very affected. After that, it was like constant, bronchitis, pneumonia, stomach flus. I mean, even shingles. I got shingles during that time.
Wow.
My immune system was just like really, really low, really low. And so it was a struggle for a while, but I got through it.
Well, thank you so much for that. And so you're going through this at like 19, 20, 21, and at the same time, JB, you were discovering that you were this empath, that you just, whoever you're around, you're absorbing their energies.
Yeah, so I wasn't really like aware of it consciously till after military. And I've probably seen some videos. It's like, okay, that's possible, but didn't know. Didn't have a mentor. Didn't have someone to really, hey, you could do this or whatnot. So I was military, got out, was bouncing from one training to the other. All right, this is gonna be the answer. This is where I'm gonna grow my career. This is where I'm gonna grow as a person, and my visions and ideas I have in mind. Because even recently talking to my mother, she said like as a kid, I dreamt of being a rich billionaire and going to buy every homeless person a house, because I just was very compassionate and just didn't want to see anyone suffer the way we were suffering, even though like that's a whole nother story just to kind of get into that. But just kind of moving forward to who we are as Dual Dragons is 2018. My mom ended up moving out of town. We were renting a 2-bedroom. She found her now husband and another fellow veteran. And then she moved on to go help my brother because he just had a kid.
Okay.
And so I was like, I happened to befriend a few neighbors. One of them happened to have an extra room, so I was staying in the area to finish up what I had going on. He was a fellow veteran. Yeah, I have tolerance to deal with a lot of shenanigans, but for whatever reason, it got to a point when I started the school for neuromuscular therapy at NHI that he said, hey, I don't think this is going to work out, because I moved his stuff of the room I was renting out, but it triggered him to send that message, via the angels or however, speaking through him for me to move on. And it's like, okay, I could tolerate this. I could, stand my ground. But for whatever reason, I took the message for me to go find another place, which ended up being where I found Rebecca, connected by the liaison, because I
The
noticed.
school liaison.
So I came here, just rented the space. Hey, I'm here for 3-4 months. I just need a quiet place for me to focus on my schooling. And at that time, and I'm thriving to live that lifestyle of what they call the minimalist. It took me 20-30 minutes to load up everything I own to my vehicle and to come over the one trip. And that allowed me to focus here. While she's dealing with her sister and other personal matters, I was just focused on going to school and just enjoying my life the best I could, and understand now that my eyes have been opened up to spirituality.
Yeah.
Definitely a big catalyst for myself would be a friend who was very spiritual, and he did a ceremony to really kind of open up my eyes and free me from a toxic relation. I was back in 2014, 15. So for me, a more conscious choice of living a spiritual experience was due to the ceremony of cutting cords and removing this cleansing ceremony, which then led me to today. And then as we started working, as I finished up school, I was about to again honor my word. I'm ready to move out, and then I heard that whisper, "This is where you're meant to be." And at the same time, or within that time frame,
within that time frame is when I approached him and I said, I've been meditating a lot, because in June we found out my sister was diagnosed with ovarian cancer of 2018, and this is August now. He had just finished schooling, and I was meditating a lot because my sister's chemo was going to be starting in September. And I kept meditating and asking my guides, like, can I help my sister? What can I do? And then finally, I heard the voice that said, you can do this, but you can't do it alone. And so when I heard that voice, I was like, but who? You know, I kept thinking, like, who can I work with my sister? And they were just like, I just remember hearing that voice of like, he's right there.
Ah.
Like almost like, really, I need to tell you who. And so that's when I approached him and I said, I know you're planning on leaving soon, but I do have a request. Is there any way you could stay a little longer and help me out with my sister? And he was like, really, I remember ever since he moved in, he was so excited because
What kind of animal you referred me to?
I know he was like a little chihuahua. So you know how chihuahuas get so excited, you know. So anytime I would come home from work or anything, he was like so like excited, waiting at the door, like waiting to ask me a million questions. And I'm that kind of person where I really like my space. You know, I really need that time to, whenever I finish working, I need a time to reflect. I need time, a little bit of solitude. So him waiting for me at the door, it was just like a little too much. I'm like, your energy's a little too much. You need to bring it down a bit. And he would always tell me, how can I, you know, let me work on you, or teach me what you know, because you had heard a little bit from fellow students, right, about me. They're like,
Very briefly.
they're like, you're where are you staying? You're staying with him. It was because I have done a lot of my work during school, and a lot of them were just blown away with my hands. So it was like they were all telling him, like, oh, you gotta, you know, ask her what's her secret. And so,
And again, until recently getting this reading, understanding that I had this dragon raw energy, I never understood for most of my life why people would disappear or get overwhelmed. And hearing
yeah,
that
his
phrase,
energies.
you're just too much. And it's like, what do you mean too much? Now, not knowing I'm just this raw energy that can overwhelm people.
Oh, that is really interesting. Yeah, go ahead, because I want to know what makes energy a dragon energy. What is that?
So that's our spirit guide animals.
Gotcha.
So spirit guide animals, we all have them also. So not only do we have our higher self, our higher source, our guides, guardian angels, family members that support you and stand behind you. They don't do anything, but they're there just for support. And so you have all this group of people that are with you at all times that we're not aware of, but we all have them. We're all connected somehow. We have all these connections. And so there's also spirit guide animals, which is something we use a lot with our clients. Not at first. The spirit guide animals came about until during COVID, because we were working with people up till COVID. And then when COVID hit, it was like, oh, we can't touch people. We can't be around people. Like, how are we going to continue being dual dragons and helping people out without being able to touch them?
And anything at the beginning, you know, the reason why it's like to be transparent with you and your audience is we didn't have made dual dragons, like I say, main income until this last year, 2022, due to we're just forming. And then also we're just either, depending on our clients, either we came off too sciencey based on our training in neuromuscular, or too spiritual, which then could, like, I wasn't ready. But I asked you like 3 times, are you sure? Do you want the message? And it's like, yes. And I give it to them. And it's like overwhelming because it really makes me feel so vulnerable in this place that most people have possibly never been. Because one, recognizing now that I'm just this raw energy and I need to be kind of taper it based on who we're addressing. And then 2, Rebecca is recognizing how to balance. And that's why we found out in her chart that she was more focus and structure, and where I was this raw energy, hence why we are perfect to work together.
We're perfect energy together. And so that's what makes it work. So and even clients, they always say they never would have considered a 4-handed body work. But out of, you know, and some people have had that experience, not with 2, like, you know, a couple, but like say 2 females where they're doing like Tai Chi, or, I mean,
sequence.
No, not Tai Chi. What do they call that? Shiatsu, and what's the other one?
Shiatsu
And
and Thai massage.
Thai massage. There we go. That's the one I was thinking of. And so they would have an experience, but they would say it was intense. And with us, it's very soothing. It's very
It's
like
a dance.
it's like a dance, and they could feel our energies almost like dancing around them, surrounding them, and they just love how we help them feel afterwards. So the way I describe it, it's double the work in less time. And so clients are coming off of our tables
With double the results.
with double the results. Exactly.
I'm just over here like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. Where do you live and when can I get a session? I'm just kidding. I'm gonna get that information. No, wow, that is really amazing. I love that. Okay, so let's go back to the love story because I'm loving it. So Rebecca, your sister, is ill. You need some help. You ask who, right? JB is right there, and you like who? And then they tell you, JB, when she approaches you, what is your reaction?
Being that I had no like set commitments that I was going to move on, like say, depositing, moving on to like a new place, like sure, I wasn't really in the mood to move to Bakersfield or to Arizona to my brothers that they had an extra room. I could have just give myself a moment to reset and rebuild my brand or my name out there. I said, I'll stay and help you out, but I do have these trainings already scheduled. Do you want to come with me? Because I have this extra tickets, and they're for building businesses, sales training, and different things that could probably benefit us. Seeing that we're still figuring out if this is going to be something.
Yeah.
Because like initially, intention was to be for her sister, but we were just practicing some colleagues, family, friends to kind of get something down, and realizing we can't do the routines like the other two two therapist massages out there. And just to kind of help your audience understand, massage is a very umbrella term, and under that there's like 240 plus styles.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ever have a girlfriend or a friend say, hey, this is a great massage place, maybe that style that they offer there is beneficial for their body, and you go as like, oh, that was the worst experience, and then you just shut down. That's where we started recognizing, taking this advanced course to read the body, mm-hmm. to understand each body person has a different touch that they need to address the discomfort, the pain, the stress, the energy blockages. Because that in time, we're realizing we work in 4 different bodies: the physical body, the mental body, emotional body, and spiritual body. But to answer your question, you're talking about the romance. Wasn't thinking about it. Being prior military, I had, again, held on to the traumas of all the stories of my fellow veterans of divorce, separation. Oh, they killed their dog, they stole my money, like very heavy stories of truths to them. Again, not recognize I was an empath. I took on those stories that I'm never going to get married, and I'm just gonna, just live my life as a single guy and just date around and just, give, contribute to the world the best I can. But lo and behold, after a few months of us really figuring out what Dual Dragon was, it just came to a point, as Rebecca is more into meditation and trusting the intuition, and I'm still learning about that at that time,
mm-hmm.
was, look,
how'd
you, it wasn't really an ultimatum. I felt it was like, hey, this is, you gotta help you focus.
Yeah, because like you said, he was still trying to figure himself out. Mm-hmm. And when we started in 2018, we started until September with my sister. And like you said, we were practicing on colleagues, friends. Hey, what do you guys think about this? And they would all be like, wow, that was amazing. Like, you guys have something going on here. Like, you guys really should look more into this. And we're like, yeah, but right now we're focusing on my sister. And so working on my sister, like you said, taking training courses and just kind of like trying to figure out what this was going to turn into. By December, so September, October, November, December. Keep in mind, at that time, my sister was diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer, and she opted for aggressive chemo. So it was a very tough 4 months for her, but she was able to get it down to 4 months, luckily.
On top of that, she happens to have the 1% of cancer
That's rare.
That's so rare that only 20,000 people in the world have it.
Yes,
So it's not really studied.
Yeah,
Wow.
because ovarian cancer is much more common in women after 65. My sister was only 40
Wow.
when she was diagnosed. So she was very young in her age group. So that's what made it a rare cancer, even though we're all very much aware of ovarian cancer, but hers was rare because of her age.
Mhm.
It's not common in younger women. When we started working on her, I remember my sister would kind of play around with us and just kind of like say, I'm the one that made dual dragons. And so when December came and we got the good news that her numbers were down and she was doing fabulous, then is when we were like, let's continue, because by then we had built a few clientele. And it was a lot of trial and error, learning through people what was too much, what was not too much, what made people comfortable, what made people not comfortable.
Mhm.
And like you said, the therapy we offer is very, you become in a state of being vulnerable with us.
Mhm.
So it can be a little scary if you're not ready for it. And so December ended, in January of 2019 is when we said, okay, let's try this. Let's try dating. Let's see where it goes.
There's so many trainings, and
Yeah.
at the trainings, thinking we'll just attract the logical people that focus on business. We happen to attract the spiritual people within those groups.
Yeah.
As, hey, how long you guys been married? Hey, how long have you guys been like? No, we're just
Yeah.
working together. What the heck are you talking about? No, we don't see two energy, auras. We just see one.
One. They would always tell us that they would see us as one.
That's interesting.
So we started dating 2019. Then we took a couples retreat
A year later,
early
2020, right before
February.
right before Valentine's.
Mhm.
So at that time, again, we've met other healers. We have received different messages, and one of the messages, you guys were meant to come together to heal the relationship. In 2020, we were able to address another milestone of, again, like I mentioned a moment ago, all the stories and being empathic of the traumas of my fellow veterans and their horror relationships, and her just getting out of her second marriage. Like, neither of us wanted to go beyond.
Yeah, we didn't want to be involved in another situation where this is going to turn bad. So I remember telling him, like, by then I remember right before, by then I said, okay, this is really becoming a serious thing. And if we really want dual dragons to grow, we're all in or we're not all in. So it's either or, because I had to make sure to tell him that, because the minute we involve marriage, dual dragons business, it's like, this is one of those where we have to know exactly if we're all in or we're not.
Yeah.
And I remember he said, like, I'm all in. And I'm like, okay, let's do this.
And in that training, it was led by a lesbian couple, and they said the way she laid it out was along the lines of, we struggle just to get married because we want to be with each other and we want to show that kind of commitment in the form of marriage and the ceremony. You guys, as homosexuals, nothing against you two, but just in general, heterosexuals, excuse me.
I'm like, what?
Heterosexuals, they take it for granted, and especially the way the laws are drawn at this time, and in this country.
Yeah, they said, you guys don't realize what a privilege it is for just to be able to get married with each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so those words really hit us hard when we're like, okay,
all right, go take a break. It's like, really? You gotta leave on that cliffhanger? And which kind of drove up a conversation, Rebecca, with work and friends. It's like, how's your hubby? It's like, fine, then I'm gonna just start calling you wifey, whatever. And it's like, she'd throw a little chance. It's like, you're never gonna call me wifey. I don't see no ring right here. and the moment, because of that little message, I let go of all those stories. I cut the cords, attached to all those fears, and she cut the cord on her side, because we were both pushing in the door on the opposite side for different stories, different reasons.
Yes.
And
I know.
This is seriously.
I know. I was like, no. And then finally he goes, okay, well, let's just get married. And I'm like, are you serious?
I love how JB, how you talk about you guys had to release your stories, because that's what we have, right? That's when we're in a state of resistance. We have these stories, and some of it, JB, like in your case, they were not even your story. You know, how we absorb the experiences of other people and use them to kind of create and manifest our own situation, and can be blocking, our own blessings. So I love how you use the word stories, because that's what they are. It's not who we are, right?
And that's how we work. That's how we work. So when we're working on clients, that's what we're doing. We're pulling the stories, because our muscles have muscle memory. It's a scientific fact. And so any trip, any fall, any injury, even just a misstep, when your body experiences those from small to big traumas, they get stored within the muscles. And so now imagine huge emotional traumas, violent traumas, that gets so stored in the body to the point where some people can't function. It brings blockages within their joints. It brings up illnesses. And so that's how we work. We start with our clients on the table. And like I said, after COVID, it's like we received a huge upgrade to what Dual Dragons was before. Before, Dual Dragons was very raw. We were working together, helping people. And yes, we had success, but it wasn't until COVID, after getting married, receiving the blessing of commitment, marriage, then figuring out how to work with people without touching them. So then Zoom came about. And so that's where we started developing skills. I'm like, okay, well, let's lead people through a meditation.
And we, like everyone else, have been trained in the spiritual sense. We started the basic guided meditation.
Yes.
With, so not say no intention, but it was just like everyone else's intention.
Yes.
But after hearing a few messages of sharing her personal stories, like it just clicked.
Yes, because we
and then
started.
the garden started coming into a more.
Let me rewind
structure.
a bit. So right before that, I had started the Healers Roundtable page on Facebook, because I got the message of, okay, you're in COVID, you're in lockdown, you still can do something. So at that time, we started offering teaching courses for healers to talk about what works, what doesn't work. And then I also invited people that are interested in the healing arts that were not necessarily in that field. And so it really opened to an audience of a lot of people wanting to know how to heal, especially being locked down in COVID. It was very, very, it was a time where mental states were being, questioned and being challenged, So it was also, at that time, my cat's like walking around behind the laptop. So at that time, like he said, we started doing Zooms, and then it was like a download from my guides, and we both started just doing the gardening. So this technique that we're talking about is called gardening your body. And so that's where the spirit and animal guide now comes into play.
More actively than before.
Yes.
Like when we first started, it's like, what do we call ourselves? Like, what kind of animal? And she mentioned some animals. Like, I'm not feeling that. And
But it was the dragons.
And I said dragons, and there's two of us. So I was like,
and I'm like, I love dragons. They've always been that, because they represent strength. They represent honesty. They represent, energy. They represent this force that is beyond of what we know we're capable of. So when we discovered dragons, that's where we went through. And so when we started doing the gardening, we would ask our clients, what's the first animal that comes to your mind? And, later on, I came across this book without even knowing. I came across this book. It's called The Pocket Guide of Spirit Guide Animals. And so whatever animal you pick, it gives you a little description of what it represents. So later on, when I got that book, it was so amazing that every animal anyone picked, there was a special message exactly of what they were going through and what they needed to hear at that moment. So it's no coincidence that the spirit guide animals would come through It's no coincidence that the gardening meditation came through for us, because that was the biggest stepping stone on being able to deal with trauma with people and not scaring them, feeling too vulnerable, because they would see it as a garden. They're
Very
just
neutral
removing
place.
plants, they're just placing plants that they want. So it was very a neutral place, not so religious, not so too woohoo. It's just a garden. Okay, visualize your shoulder like a garden. Let's figure out where the pain is coming from. Why is it occurring? So we would have them remove plants that didn't belong there. We would have them re-landscape. And that's where before our clients would say, I remember feeling results, real good results by the third or fourth
to sixth sessions is
Yes.
usually.
And when we establish the gardening and how to releasing trauma in this way, our clients are getting now results within the first or second session. So
Wow.
it has Dual Dragons has transitioned several times into this wonderful thing. So now we have what we call the gardening. We also have generational trauma release technique, which is where we dig in the garden when there's deep wounds there. And the third one that just recently came and was downloaded to us is called the heart meditation. So sometimes our clients are still a little stuck and still need answers of why they're going through what they're going through. And so I lead them through the heart meditation, where they visit each chamber of their heart and receive a special message from each chamber. Yeah.
So it's a meditation that helps them start building that relationship that they never knew
with themselves,
with their higher selves, their soul, that they didn't realize they could do. And then like the fourth thing that came up was, because of all the feedback from all the bodies, now that we're getting momentum, rather than taking 4 to 6 sessions, that we're getting hits on the 1-2 sessions, we're able to gather enough information to start creating this map. Similar to Louise Hayes, we thank for her for setting the foundation, but then because of the feedback of the work we're doing, it kind of gives us like building the framework for the person. And just for an example, do you have any pains in your discomfort in your body?
I'm sorry?
Do you have any pains or discomfort in your body?
Yes, that's why in my head I'm like, I gotta do this. I gotta do this. I have to do this. Lower back, my lower, like almost like it's the sciatica or whatever, just lower back, that tailbone.
The hip. Okay. So through Louise Hayes, giving credit to her because she did influence us to some capacity, that represents financial fear. But the work we did, digging in the gardening and the feedback we get, we discovered that lower back represents self-worth. Whether it's your story or someone else's story, whether it's, am I worthy of this relationship? Am I worthy of this pay? Am I worthy of this job? Am I worthy of, fill in the blank? And then you have this question and just stuck in this kind of like a hamster wheel. The hip represents kind of like your pelvis is the way you carry yourself in life. So again, we could gather some more, and there's plenty more we could share. We don't want to take up more of your time, but we'll explain more as our class is coming up soon.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If people want to learn more, because we're located in Anaheim, California, and so not a lot of people have access to us, but we do Zooms by donation, and so we could lead you through the gardening, the heart meditation, the generational trauma. And we're also going to be offering a course through Zoom. It's a 2-day course on the 11th and the 12th of February, which is a Saturday, Sunday, from 9 a.m. to 10:30 Pacific time. And it's called Learning How to Read Your Body to Heal. So we're going to go more into the gardening, more into generational trauma, more into the heart meditation. I'm also going to lead everyone through a chakra cleanse through water.
That's another thing that came up.
Yeah, that was another one that came up. And then, and also that map that he's talking about. We developed the body map, where we put down exactly what, if your pain is here, what does that represent? If your pain's here, what does that represent? So we're giving you that guidance to learn how to read your own body and be like, oh, I have pain here.
What story do I need
to let go? Why is this pain here? Because sometimes pains just creep up on you out of nowhere, and people are like, I didn't do anything. Why am I hurting here? Most likely it's a story that got stuck there. And it's like a broken record. It's just playing over and over and over and over. And it's going to continue nagging until you address it. So learning how to address certain things, it, our clients are like, yeah, the other day was so interesting. This little pain came out of nowhere, and I did your exercise like you guys told me, and I was able to do the gardening, and I was able to do all this, and the pain went away because they were able to address it. So that's our goal. Our goal is not to have our clients depend on us. Our goal is to help you empower yourself, learning how to heal yourself, and just coming to us for maintenance once in a while, because we want to empower you. We don't want you to use us as your crutch, because and I think that goes for Jesus. Any, high religion, it's all about knowing and discovering you and your path and empowering yourself in that path.
Again, like I said, we're very transparent. We've had maybe 3 or 4 clients that did not get results is because we show them this technique. It's not our tools. It's not the Dill Dragon tools. Yes, we channeled it and we're able to translate it to be usable, but it's really those people were expecting us to do the work for them.
Yeah.
Can you really learn someone else's lesson? Can you really live life through someone else? Yeah, that's what the YouTubes and all those video channels are. They play a role, but they're hopefully was meant to inspire you for you could go do that yourself. So we want to teach you what is yours. Did you know you have this cool healing technique? It doesn't have to be like the old school monks where you're silent and living in a cave for years till you find enlightenment. No, you could process the story. Okay, loosen up the discomfort. And then if you get awareness that you need another type of healer, whether it's us, whether it's a holistic chiropractor, like we will help guide you depending what your body tells us. It's not like you got to come to us. We want you to encourage, this feels discomforting. Maybe I should go see this type of professional that's specializes in this.
Yeah.
It's really about building, again, that trust within yourself to you.
And also building your healing team.
Yes.
That is beautiful. And that deeply resonates with me. Having people step into their own power, right? Instead of being dependent on a healer, empowering them to heal themselves. That is so amazing. Do you all literally get messages from the body?
Yeah.
So you'll get, like, if you put your hands over someone's heart, you'll literally get a message from that part of their body.
We had from experiences where we have to send our clients to the hospital to experiences where I'm touching and I'm able to pull all these stories. Just to share a quick story, we had one man here in particular, healthy, very, very healthy man. And I was just like thinking, like, what is he here for? Because the minute he walked in, he just represented healthy. And so I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And so I guess he had been exposed to black mold, had, gone through a healing journey, but he was still feeling a certain pain on the left hip and couldn't get rid of it. And so he just could not figure out what it was. And
like, he was explaining the top level diet he was on, the intense workout, and then he built his business where he had the flexibility to be present for his family. Like, he was like, wow, it's possible. Like, you hear about this in movies and stories, but to meet someone in person is rare, because usually it's a dual income. You hardly have time for your kids or your family. So to have this man walk in, it's like, okay, this is a possibility. And his story is very inspiring to other clients as we share part of it, which we're about to share right now.
So as we were working on him, we're like finding like not so much to work on. He's very healthy. But once I got to the left hip to figure out what exactly was going on, that's when I said, okay, now we're going to go a little more spiritual, if that's okay. But left hip represents mother.
The thigh, yes.
The thigh. And so the thigh and the hip. And so I was like, how is your relationship with your mother? And he looked at me and he goes, it's not that great, but it's funny that that's what that represents. And I'm like, yes. And I said, okay, you know,
Again, you don't have to tell us
I
details.
said, you don't have to give us details, but what is it about the relationship that you're not happy?
Mm.
And he's all like, he goes, well, it's me and my two other sisters, but I always feel like I don't have that connection and bond with my mother. Even when she comes over, she doesn't have a bond or connection with my kids. He goes, it's really starting to bother me because I've never had her support.
Mm.
So I'm like massaging him, I'm listening to him. And as I'm listening to him, I'm seeing all these visions. And I said, your mom's childhood. I said, how was your mom's life? And he's all pretty good. I'm like, I'm sorry, I wasn't specific enough. Her childhood. How was your mom's childhood? Wasn't that great? You know, no support from her mom. Because I said, oh, he goes, yeah, it wasn't that great. You know, her mom wasn't really present. I said, okay, let's go even back further. How was your grandmother's childhood?
Mm.
And
Mm.
he was like, wow. I think at that moment he started realizing what was happening. He goes, well, my grandmother lost her mom at a really young age, and she had to become a mom to all
Instant
her
mom.
instant mom to siblings, including her own dad. She had to take care of him because he couldn't function.
Wow.
So then I said, do you see why your mom couldn't support you? There's all this trauma following them. I said, there's a trauma of your grandmother, trauma that she passed on to your mother. I go, but here's the best thing. You have the gift right now to release that trauma and let that story go so it doesn't get carried on to your sons.
Mm.
And he was like, he just stayed really quiet and he was just like,
Processing, yeah.
I never had thought about it that way, but you're right. Why would I expect my mom to support me when she never had support?
Mm.
She was never taught that.
And these are one of the few
Uh-huh.
times that they'll voice the story. For the most part, this will be a
Yeah,
garden.
very
Oh, it'll be a
quiet.
broken pot or a moldy tree that's falling apart. They'll just remove the energy, but every so often
Yes.
they'll have to express that story, like the one we're sharing with you today,
hmm
which then
Which was very, it was an instant. So that person, only with that one session, got the results he needed and has been fine since then. So it wasn't really about black mold. It was more that black mold actually surfaced traumas that
Wow.
he needed to release to have the full healing experience. And that was it. That's all he needed.
You know, this is incredible to me. I had an interview with another in the ear, and we had the conversation about the body. That if we don't deal with traumas, if we have emotions that we stuff, that energy doesn't go away. It embeds itself into the body. And just hearing you guys, it's just fascinating to me how intelligent the body is. And how, and let me say this, how in the Western world, we are just taught if you have a pain, take a pill. We're focused on the symptom as opposed to the origin of the issue. It's like we have so much to learn about ourselves as spiritual beings, and that the body is the messenger for us. That's incredible. This is astounding to me.
definitely, and like the map that we refer to, it's kind of like the map at the mall. You're here. That's really what it is. Unfortunately, we cannot say write a book. This is the sequence. This is the mantra. This is the routine you have to move to release this, because each person is different. But it gives us a good starting point. Left thigh, mother. Right thigh, father. Inner thighs, intimacy. Like different parts gives us a starting point. But until we touch you or have a conversation with you to help you understand how to start reading your body differently than what you've learned before, really allows that healing, because we want you to tap into, if you're very religious, tap into a prayer or a song. If you're very into spirituality, tap into the different healing modalities that call to you, that you're drawn to. Because some like, oh, that's too witchcrafty, but really there's beauty to some of that energy that might be the vibration of that trauma that you need to go step into it for a moment. Don't have to stay, but really dance into the different wonderful gifts of wisdoms you already have access to. And this is just kind of, again, here you are, and where are you trying to go? What are you trying to
And
be?
then I just want to share another story
Okay.
about one client that we needed to send to the hospital.
Oh, so there's a couple.
Yeah, so there was a couple, but this one was the one that I find like very like it hits home. So she came in, an elderly person. We knew she had some issues. She was a breast cancer survivor, diabetic, overweight. There was a lot of health issues, and those were the main ones I knew about. And so as we were working on her, I remember I always start at the feet, because that's where I read through the feet. And so I always start at the feet to not only ground you, but also read you. And as I'm touching the feet, I already know through the foot where you're carrying the most tension, where to go there to next. But I remember looking at her ankles. She always had thick ankles, but to that day, there was just something that started bugging me about it. And I would massage her, and I would be like, "Do you see a heart specialist?" And she goes, "Yeah, why?" I'm like, "You're not feeling well, are you?" And she goes, "No, I'm just a little tired. I don't know what it is." And I'm like, "It's your heart." I go, "You need to go to see your heart doctor now." And she was like, "Oh, this was Thursday." She goes, "I have an appointment on Monday." I'm like, "Nope, you need to go today."
Wow.
And then she was like, "No, come on, she goes, I understand I'm not well, but I think you're over exaggerating." And I'm like, "No, I'm not exaggerating. You need to go see your heart doctor." Finish the session.
She was supposed to have a session on Sunday.
Yes, she was supposed to come back Sunday, never did. We never heard from her again.
For months.
For months. And so then months later, she finds us and says, I need to talk to you guys. And so she invites us to lunch, and then she's all like, "You guys saved my life." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" So she's telling us that she didn't listen. She went home, rested. Next day, Friday, woke up, still feeling very fatigued, still feeling out of sorts, off, as she said. But again, she was like, "No big deal." Her daughter decides to call. Oh, and that was another remark. She said, "Oh, you're over worrying like my daughter. My daughter always worries about me." So her daughter calls, and she's talking to her mom. "You sound tired." "Yeah, I'm a little tired. I'll be fine. And I'm worried about you." She goes, "Oh my God, now you sound like Rebecca." So the minute she said that, "Oh, now you sound like Rebecca." Well, what do you mean? Her daughter started asking all these
Who's
questions.
Rebecca?
Who's Rebecca? Like, what are you talking about? And so she starts telling her what I said. And her daughter heard the message.
Wow.
And so her daughter is texting her husband to show up. And as she's on the phone, she goes, all of a sudden I see my son-in-law knocking on my door. And I'm like, "What is going on?" And she's like, "Mom, we're taking you to the hospital."
Wow.
Oh my God, you guys are making such a big deal. They're like, "Nope, we're taking." So by then it's already evening, Friday evening. They take her to the hospital. Saturday morning, she was having major heart surgery to put in 4 stents in her heart because she was about to have a massive heart attack.
Wow.
And so she looked at me and she goes, "I didn't listen to you, but because of what you told me and because my daughter heard the message loud and clear, I'm still alive here."
Wow. And you got all that
Through
from
her
feet.
ankles.
I mean, I love this. Love this. So before we close out, because we have to know, okay, so you all have a group on Facebook. Tell us about what's the name of the group, and because you are doing trainings as well.
Yeah, so it's called the Healers Roundtable,
Okay.
private group on Facebook. All you have to do is just send a request to join as a member. There we on our one of our tabs, we have all the previous courses that we had taught. We taught about the chakras, how to connect with your spiritual guides, like, you know, a lot of different courses at that time that my higher guides told me that's what people needed at that time. But they're always going to be good for if you ever decide to, you know, be curious about that. And then now we're doing much more, not so often courses, but once in a while, I'll get a message like, okay, you guys need to teach about this so people understand how to do this. And so that because of years of developing what we develop now we're teaching people exactly how we're working on the body and the results you get for it and the purpose of it. And so that's what we're doing now. We're focusing more and now spreading the word of how you can do this yourself.
And again, like I mentioned earlier before, it's not really our thing. We just happen to translate what your body is capable of doing and helping you in the simplest form possible, how to activate it and use it to your benefit.
I know, it's always like that saying, like, really, it was that simple? Yes, really, it's that simple.
And the garden meditation, we kind of tested it for different reasons. For someone getting into a relationship, someone getting out of the relationship, someone looking for a new job. It's been very effective in many ways.
Yes.
Again, not to hold expectations, but it'll help you clear your garden, your energy, so that you could be the light to attract the right job, the right career, the right relationship, so that you are, you know, in sync.
Like the way I described it yesterday, you have to be able to find a way to open up all the windows of the house of your body to let that light in, because sometimes we block it out. And that's where you find yourself always lost or not knowing what to do next, because we're so blocked off, our energy is not flowing, that we just can't see beyond this.
Yes.
So when you learn how to tap into your own energy, open up all those windows, and not opening them up for anything to come in, but opening up for that light, that higher source, your higher self to come in and really be able to guide you, then you're able to see all the opportunities you have in front of you.
I love it. I'm loving this. If I hadn't said it before, I'm loving this. What is the best way that you all, because I know people are going to want to contact you, what is the best way do you want people to contact you if you're open to that?
Yes, the best way is
through our website. It has our email and our phone number.
Yes.
Okay. So that's duodragons.com.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So go through the website. Before I close out, first of all, I have to ask Rebecca, why do you think that Jesus showed up to you as a Native American? I have to ask that.
You know, for many years, I didn't know. And it wasn't when I shared it for the first time on the previous podcast where you met me, where you saw me.
Yeah.
It wasn't until then that I got answers why. It was so funny. So right after that, I was contacted by a Native American, Cedric Redfeather. And he's from a tribe that is pretty much, it's just him now.
He's the last of
his kind.
Wow.
So he reached out and he was the one like, you have to have some Native American lineage somehow. So he was the one that really asked me a lot of questions. What's my history and all that? And I'm like, well, I could only go back this far. Further than that, who knows? But I have been told by other healers that I have Hopi lineage. And he goes, well, that makes sense, because he goes, in reality, all of us came more from Mexico and then we just traveled this way. He goes, so it's not a coincidence. You have to have some lineage within your line. And he goes, because the way you described Jesus and the outfit, he goes, there's just no way you would have known. The outfit you describe is the authentic outfit that our natives wore.
Wow.
It's not like the TVs, like the way you describe it. It's not like the TV shows or the movies. It was so different. And the way you talked about it, I just knew you were the real deal because there's no way you could have known that information. And so he explained to me how there has to be somehow I'm linked to that. And then there's also another podcast interview that was the following day of mine, and his and my story. There was a lot of synchronicity.
Yeah.
And so I always recommend people, if you could hear that, my podcast on Jeff Mara, hear the next one of that guy's story and how there's a lot of synchronicity with our stories about Native American. He's a white guy, no Native American lineage, but then yet they reached out to him in his near-death experience. So it's really interesting that no matter if we were connected or not connected, his was a confirmation that we're all connected somehow.
Absolutely. And when I saw your interview on Jeff Mara's show, which Jeff Mara is like the king of indie ears, everyone, like without Jeff Mara's work, I don't know where we all would be, really. But when I saw you on his show and you were talking about that, you looked so much, and you do look like Native American, like you have Native. I'm like, Jesus must have been giving her a message that there is a connection. And I really feel like that you have your entire lineage behind you guys, that your ancestors are behind you doing this work with you.
Yes.
Oh, do you want to hear a quick story?
Yeah, I'm always up for stories.
Or your manager one. They're both about the same with their lineage coming in.
Which one?
With Tim or your office?
Oh yeah, no. So the Tim is a young man that actually is a native. He's from Apache.
Up in Washington region.
And so when he came down, it was our first time meeting. He kind of looked at us like, I don't know about you guys. I don't know if you guys are
read my body. Like,
read my body.
He was like, read my body. What's going on?
And I was like,
calm down, ego.
And I looked at him. I looked at him like, it doesn't work that way. You need to lay down. And so he laid down, and oh my goodness, the minute I touched him, I could see all the stories of all the trauma his tribe has gone through, the passing down of traumas. And it was so intense where I was just like, I looked at my husband and I was just like, wow, there's a lot of trauma in this body. So it was our first time experiencing that, and so then as we were working on him.
So her native group comes out, my native group. It was about to be an all-out spiritual war. It was just very intense.
It was a very intense session.
So wait a minute. Your native lineage, your ancestors came forward, and JB, yours came forward.
And all of his.
Wow. And you guys could what? Sense, see, hear, like what?
I mean, literally, we had that person crying on our table because he mentioned the name of one of his very close friends, because they all have so much trauma. You hear a lot about drug abuse, domestic abuse and
sexual violence, all that
within those communities, and it's because of all that generational trauma. And in a way, it's like, and I remember telling him, like, the only way you guys really need to heal your land, because that trauma is so present in that land that you guys are just playing it over and over through generation. So I really emphasized to him that it's very important for him and his tribe to really figure out a way to heal the land, make peace with the past generations, so this doesn't keep happening. Because unfortunately, he fell into drug abuse, alcohol abuse, and all that. And so when he mentioned the name of a friend that was with him in this journey of trying to recover, being in rehab, successful, yeah, so he's a success story, but he lost his friend in that journey. So the minute he mentioned your friend is here and he said his name, he lost it. He was like, there's just no way you guys would have known that.
So like I mentioned, it was very intense, like it was about to be a war, like
Yeah.
the anger that, coming from his lineage, but it wasn't intentional. He wasn't a
Yes.
physically aggressive, person, but the energy of all that trauma was like ready
It
to
was,
fight.
yeah, it was,
But as soon as that, it just melted, and he became open to receive, and then we did our little
yeah.
treatment on him, and he just
It was,
sheds a
yeah,
lot.
it was like a different person emerged from that table. You could just see all this weight just came off of him, you
And the
know.
visual I got, because like I said, we look at, she feels more of the physical body and the stories. I see the stories, and then sometimes what's going on behind the currents of beyond. I can see all our natives just kind of hugging and embracing the healing, and just kind of, all right, we're at peace. We are good.
Yeah.
This entire interview has given me chills. Like, y'all are incredible. This is incredible. I love that. Oh my gosh. This is fifth dimension stuff.
Yes.
This
And that's
is
what we're
fifth
going
dimension.
into.
Yes. 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 I love it.
Speaking of fifth dimension,
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
we like to help people kind of wrap their head around understanding
What it is.
3D versus 5D.
Okay.
So she says that
I say it, he goes, you say it the best. So 3D, we've all been in 3D, which is just being connected to your higher source and then your masculine and feminine energy. And I said, so what I want you to understand is that we've been working with the power of 3 for a long time. That's the power of 3. The fifth dimension is now this huge compass within us. So you are the center, you're the fifth. And then the 4 other parts of the compass, it's north, south, east, and west. So now you have your higher self, your human self, your feminine, masculine energy. So that's what I tell people. It's not like you're going into a whole new world. It's you yourself, you're opening up much more, 2 more dimensions
of awareness,
and now you've become your own compass,
which is overwhelming for very many sensitive people that were denying it for a while.
Yes.
And the anxiety,
it'll creep up. Anxiety, depression will creep up because you're not sure what you're dealing with,
or how to
it's
use
that
it.
fear. It's that fear that comes up. But like our teacher said, when you remove fear, the trust is so strong, there's no room for fear to come back. So if you trust yourself, you trust your process, that fear can never come back in. It only comes back in with your permission.
And it works in a duality. So because in this reality, you can't live, that's part of like one of the universal law of duality. So trust and truth would be the duality for, raising your self-love, which then will help keep out those fears. But if you don't have that self-love, then the fear is going to fill into the cracks and then push out that aspect. And that's why you probably see other healers or other very amazing people. They're happy, they got the world going for them, and the pendulum swings. They just opened it up and they just are flooded by fear, and then unfortunately, they're choosing to take their life or do something unloving and causing harm to others.
Wow.
So hopefully that debunks a lot of that, understanding a little bit the difference of that 3D and 5D, just being more aware.
And you were saying some of the symptoms that we could have if we're going into the 5D but don't know how to handle it is the fear and anxiety and depression.
Yes.
Because I know a lot of people are experiencing things that they're like, why am I feeling like this? And not really understanding. Wow. Wow. Well, thank you so, man. You guys have been a wealth of information, a wealth of information. Are there any last positive words that you would like to share with the viewers before we close out? Before I give you my closing remarks,
yes,
close out.
I would say it's something that I say to all clients, because a lot of clients come in here thinking they're never going to heal. How can I heal? I've been like this for so long. And I always tell them, like, you are healing all the time.
Mm.
And they're like, well, how do you know? And I'm like, have you recently got a cut or a scratch? And they're like, yeah. What does that have to do with anything? I'm all, it healed, right?
Mm.
And so they're like, I go, just because we can't see it doesn't mean we're not healing. But just the fact, if you scratched yourself by accident, look at what happened. It healed. It did your body took process. The only thing you had to do was wash your hands to make sure no germ or infection would compromise that cut.
Mm-hmm.
You took care of it and it healed. It's that simple. So don't ever lose faith or hope thinking you can never heal, because you're healing all the time.
Mm.
But we're just not aware of it. We don't see it. We don't believe it. But whenever you get a cut in your hand or wherever, use that as a reminder of your healing gift. Because if your body can heal that, it could do anything.
Wow, that's so encouraging. That is so true. We heal all the time.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then my final words is, look, I still struggle with my darkness. When I first came before the relationship, one of the whispers that kind of was an anchor was, this is where you're meant to be. That's one of my anchors. And then this last 4 years, now I have more positive things of my own healing, where it's like, I already found my purpose, I found my soulmate. Yes, I still have my ego and the darkness. You cannot cut that out. You can't shut that out. That's just part of who you are. It's part of your healing journey of your soul, and then what you experience in life. So as you embrace both, that's great. That's tempting. I want to blow my money. I don't want to pay my bills, whatever the darkness may be for you. But I found my purpose, and then it comes to a choice. It's not like a reaction. It's not, you're not being a chemical just byproduct of their hormones and your chemicals. It's just, okay, I'm aware of my choice. I could give in back to my old patterns or that didn't serve me, or I could choose to grow this, my purpose, my soulmate, whatever it is, that is your anchor of light, and just keep expanding.
This is amazing. Wow. Doesn't it feel good to be in your purpose? Doesn't it feel amazing? I always say, what else would we be doing? Right? What else would we be so bored? Like, really?
No, and it's like, even with, people when they see me, they're like, oh, you've reached that state of enlightenment. I'm like, there's still more to reach to. It's never ending. It's just like education. There's always time to learn more. There's always time to learn more. We never stop learning. We never stop growing.
No, we don't. You're absolutely right. I have closing remarks. Rebecca and JB, every week that I interview guests, some kind of magical way, Source makes sure the Course in Miracles lesson coincides with that guest. And this week, the message, the lesson is, you are the light of the world. And the two of you embody that truth. You are the light of the world. Your incredible depth, the love that you have for one another, the love that you have for others, the way that you've transmuted your own traumas, your own darkness, your own stories, and turned them into this beautiful light is so inspiring and so wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your energy with the world, for humanity, for the expansion of the collective. Just the way that you share yourselves is impactful. It's incredible, and I love it. Thank you so much for joining the show. It has been an honor. It has been an honor just to be in your presence, and just to learn so much. I'm so excited for you guys, what you're doing for the world. I'm so excited for it. And thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
It was an honor too for us to be here with you.
Yes, yes. And thank you all for joining the show. Please share this video with others who can be of benefit. Please, please, please go to the Duo Dragons website, go to the Facebook group, learn how you can heal your traumas, learn how you can get information from your body. We are powerful beings of love and light, and we have the ability to heal ourselves. And so here you have two very powerful healers who are willing to share their wisdom for everyone. So please check them out. And we end the show with the heart, because it's all about love. I love you. Love everyone who joined the show today. Oh, there we go. There we go. And just have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much, y'all. Love and light.